Lunchtime, kids! All right!
Yum, 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 yum.
Hello, friends. It's lunchtime.
And we are on RNC and the Lunch Break Show. I am Josh here with Matt Stoker and Zach Lewis in the studio. And we're talking about all things trending, popular culture, or some would say pop culture.
Some might say pop culture.
The correct way of saying it would be pop culture.
Excuse me.
And we're going to be going through, yes, we were having a quick jam session during our technical difficulty in here, and there is some overlay from that.
Oh,
So,
we have fun here.
either way, back on topic. So this show airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12 until 1. And what we do is we discuss things that are trending and happening in the world around us and in the DFW area. And for example, one of those hot topics is what happened with McDonald's yesterday. And by the way, if you weren't aware, yesterday was National International Women's Day.
Yes, National International Women's Day.
I'm thinking that's probably worldwide, but I'm going to say for here, we definitely focused on the national part of
Right.
that. All the ladies in the staff took I'm going to say a failed group selfie.
I think they did very well.
Man, is that online anywhere? Can I post it?
It's
on the
Stream that if
Instagram.
we've got it.
It's
Is
on
it?
Instagram.
All right,
yeah.
you guys talk amongst yourselves. I'll see if I can find that.
Oh man! So they all three, and I'm sure they're up there watching now in the office. They were
clearly.
all trying to jump together, and not one person is in the same form
Not
of
in
jump.
sync.
Yeah, like I've never seen a jump photo go that wrong.
I was going to say I've never seen one really go right, but yeah, perhaps varying levels of correctness.
Yeah, it's like one was literally at the down, one was just starting. Only I think one person was up in the air. One person just like bowing their arm. Like, it was
good.
It was phenomenal. But
I
it
was
one
really
of
impressed.
one of those failed attempts at.
I'm going to say
International
it was a
Women's Day.
bit, and they did a very good job.
Okay, you know
Yeah.
what? I never thought of that angle of
Yeah.
it, but it definitely could have been. So while Zach's looking for that photo, because we will come back to that, while Zach's looking for that photo, we are looking at the International Women's Day, and several companies did a tribute, and they reached out. One of those was McDonald's.
Yes.
And what they did digitally is they switched their M to a W.
Okay, yeah, so I was very curious about if this had actually happened or if it was some sort of fake viral thing that had been put out by somebody else.
No.
Or I was like, there's no way they actually did this. Got a crane up there to flip the thing around. That's not possible.
Apparently, one store that is owned by a female, they actually did something to make their logo look that way. But
Yeah.
for everywhere else, it was just online. It was a quick little Photoshop swap, and that's what was done. And
Yeah.
to me, it's nice. It's a nice little tribute.
A nice gesture.
It's saying
yeah, sure.
that we recognize this day and we appreciate all the work and the valiant effort that's been going in to International Women's Day.
You didn't have to, but you did.
Yeah. And instead, the internet trolls
Naturally.
came out in full effect. And I think this is partly why companies don't do anything any longer.
Yeah.
Like, don't try. Because if you try, even if it's with good intention and you try, people will lambast you.
They'll find something to turn against you.
Yeah.
Some either mistake or not mistake that you made, which I don't think in this case that McDonald's really made a mistake, other than perhaps not expecting this. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you almost have to have a wizard or something that's running your social media to expect every different possible outcome that could happen whenever you put something out there. Like, what could this possibly be interpreted as?
Yeah, and that's why more often than not, companies just don't dip their toe in anything.
Yeah.
Anything political, anything that may be pro or anti anyone ever. It's just very plain. And that's a big criticism as well for a lot of people. But some of the critiques of McDonald's was they're saying, you know what, all the cash that you spent to digitally flip all your logos, which again,
All the cash.
Yeah.
All the cash.
I'm going to tell you that doesn't take a whole lot of time. Some
No.
intern somewhere handled that.
Yeah.
For pretty cheap.
I'm pretty sure, it cost them $0.
Yeah, but that money could have been used to go toward a charity to honor. And you know what? McDonald's does a lot for charity.
Yeah.
One of the more reasonable arguments, like, you know what? How about instead of swapping your logo around, you actually pay a livable wage, provide health care to employees, hire more women and minorities in leadership roles. And so they kind of went through and did some statistics. And, that would be
harsh criticism, but fair enough.
Fair critique. But at the same time, that wasn't the point. It wasn't like, hey, look how good we are. It's just kind of saying, hey, you know what? Hey,
shout out to the ladies.
Shout out, yeah. So I think that's one of those issues that I have a problem with, is that more and more companies I wish would do what McDonald's did. And yeah, sure, there's other things that they could do to fix up what they have going on. And I don't know all the details of the back of McDonald's and how much they pay. Yeah. No idea. I can't imagine it's a whole lot to flip fries. But either way, I think that more companies should do these kind of things, and more people need to relax on their criticism and realize what the intent behind the action was.
Right. I think as a society we can be a little bit more forgiving when it comes to something that was clearly just meant as a nice gesture towards an internationally recognized day of recognition.
Yeah.
A recognized day of recognition, obviously. And also just, like you said, a shout out to the women that are working hard at McDonald's or anywhere. So, yeah, I think we should at least try to take into account the meaning behind it. There was no ulterior motive here. There was nothing. I mean, whatever. It was a publicity stunt, obviously, because anything any company does is a publicity stunt.
Sure.
But I think it was well intentioned. Yeah. So I don't think it was like, well, we're gonna make a ton more money today because people are gonna see this and go to McDonald's.
I think this is one of those deals that whoever works for Burger King and turned down the idea of turning it for a day into Burger Queen got a pat on the back and hey, you know what? We dodged a bullet on that one.
Right. Yeah, well done.
That would have been awful.
Well done.
So it's one of those kind of deals. Like, everyone on the internet, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Focus more on the intent of the action and not necessarily the action itself. There's always going to be really harsh things to say about almost anyone. I just finished a book. I was telling you guys about it, Van Jones.
Yes.
And Van Jones had a really good point where he said, you know what, I'm never going to 100% agree with anyone. There's going to be shades of disagreement with almost everyone in every party at any given movement ever.
Yeah.
And he goes, but understand what their intent is. And go, is that intent something that I can get behind? 100%.
Yeah.
Done. And again, you're realizing that I may not totally agree with the way that they pay or the way that they hire, but I appreciate the fact that you're at least recognizing something. I think that's the time to say congrats to McDonald's for doing this. I appreciate you were the only hamburger chain to even recognize this as a day. Now, moving forward, that's nice. Also, this and this and this would be good too. That's a way you could handle it without kind of being the internet troll.
Right.
Right. I think it's important to understand, like, a lot of this is internet sensationalism. It's websites like, not to call anybody specific, BuzzFeed, that say, hey, look at this thing that people freaked out about on the internet. Like, it's not really news. I don't want to wager and say it's fake news, but personally, I'd like to give a shout out to Mayor McCheese for doing a little something for International Women's Day. We haven't seen him in a few years, but he's still working hard.
He's still out there for us.
He's not letting the Hamburglar get to him, and I respect him for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point about sites that overblow the reaction. Like, people, the internet is up in arms when really it was probably 3 or 4 people on Twitter that said something about it, or maybe more than that. But really, that's a vast minority of people who are actually engaging with whatever happened. Most people probably saw that and went on. I did see someone say it looked like a butt a little bit, so I'm not sure.
Of course.
I'm gonna put this photo back on screen. There it is for everybody that wants to see it on stream.
Is this the failed jump?
The failed jump. Oh no, that's the McDonald's International Women's Day logo with the flipped M. Yeah. I wasn't sure.
Judge for yourself if that looks like a
be your own person there. Let that be what you think it is.
Yeah. Again, not great. I think it's one of those like, hey, yeah, sure, let's do this. But I'll tell you this: they won't do it next year.
Or maybe they will.
Yeah, and they're still not going to raise their average pay for $15 an hour.
No.
They're not going to do any of that stuff. They're just going to go a further step back because you guys went way overboard with your reactions.
Josh, are you calling a shot? You think next year we got a chance at Burger Queen? Because that's not bad. Like, I'm honestly a little surprised they didn't do that.
No way. I don't think anyone else. I think, again, the more times that people get slapped on the wrist for trying to say something nice, the less likely you are to be nice.
Could be Taco Bell with an E at the end, Belle.
Oh, wow.
Taco Bell.
That would get into really weird territories. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're supposed to have a guest, but if she doesn't go, we still have a exciting parenting fail of a topic that I want to talk about a kid feeding her something that could have been potentially harmful. And we are back on Real News Talk. We are here talking about all things trending and topical. Again, this show is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12 to 1. You can find us live on Facebook, live on Twitter, and live on YouTube. Any of those three channels. We're trying to follow the comments as best as possible. So, but please feel free. If we don't get to them in there, you can always leave us your email. We'll try to reach out through email. We appreciate everyone commenting, sharing, liking, and all those different things. We're going to wait on the topic about the mom. Our guest is running a little bit behind schedule. So right now, another exciting topic that's trending in politics is video games. And this is something that is near and dear to all of our hearts, some more than others.
I'm really looking forward to just laying out my political agenda in this segment.
I love it.
Go
We
ahead
are
and
adult children.
Cue that up for me, Josh.
Yeah, this is something that I hear you guys talking a lot about. Just kind of like while you're working and getting stuff done, is the different games that you guys play.
Sure.
So the argument goes we shouldn't have video games, and here's kind of the violent video games.
Okay.
Here's the premise behind it. It goes back all the way to like World War I and World War II, where the soldiers were having a hard time actually gearing up to go fight. Like giving them a gun to go kill someone was a hard thing to like get your cognitive mind to go, I need to do this.
Right.
And so they were like playing them violent images. They had them like do these different things where they were able to be more okay with it with their mind and be able to execute that goal, which is to win the war against tyranny.
Right.
So that's the premise behind it. And then now every game that I play is chock full. So I'm a first-person shooter gamer, and that's what I do. I do Call of Duty. I do those type of games.
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, that is from the eyes of the soldier you're playing. You see over the gun.
Yeah,
that's
you
what
walk
that
around
is.
and you kill whatever other country is invading you.
That's right.
So that's what in my free time, that's what I choose to play.
Right.
And it's games like that are in danger of being done away with. So that's the premise behind it. I'm obviously against it because I enjoy doing that. But if I thought genuinely there was a good argument to be made that those kind of games actually influence the behavior that we're seeing recently, I would be more open to it. But I haven't seen a good argument for that yet.
No, and in fact, there have been a number of studies that say the opposite, that say that doesn't have an appreciable effect. I think what you're probably seeing, and me not being a psychologist or anything of that nature, but I would have to imagine that, judging from my own experience, if it's something that you may have an innate the ability to go there. Like, I would never want to shoot anybody. But I suppose if someone were in a different mental state than me, then I think probably any form of media that presents that type of behavior could have an effect on you, right? And this extends to film, this extends to literature, this could be video games. People say video games are different because they're interactive, but I don't really think that's probably the case. It's probably more, if you're into that sort of thing, if your mind can already go there, then anything that triggers that in you might have an effect. But I mean, I find it as an escape. I find it cathartic to not the act of murder, but just the act of competition, right? That's all it is, really. It's dressed in different ways, but it's really just, am I better than this guy on the other end? And yes or no. And so that's kind of what it comes down to. I can say when I've played racing games and things like that and then immediately gotten in my car, I feel the urge to want to speed, but that's vastly different than playing a game and then going out in public and feeling the urge to want to murder everyone.
Yeah.
That's something I speed anyways, but I never ever take that other step to go kill anyone.
Right. I think an interesting place to start out here is kind of the idea of sport and entertainment, because a lot of people consider a lot of first-person shooters esports. It's popular in a lot of foreign countries. It's starting to pick up here. But that's just kind of its own separate thing. A lot of people don't think it should be like in the Olympics. That's not really, people don't consider it a sport. They're like, you sitting there and playing a game on your television isn't a sport. But at the same time, like buying a rifle and going hunting is somehow considered a sport, even though you're out in the woods shooting at animals. Like, the way I see it, I'm like, if you are going to consider whether or not virtually shooting at an animal or actually doing it, like which one is more of an influence towards like violent behavior, I'd say probably doing it in reality has potential to be worse.
Okay, but here's where
than shooting it in a video game on your couch at home on a Friday night, right?
So here's where I think the argument kind of goes astray for me.
Yeah.
Is that line of reasoning, though, I would say, first off, the number of people who actually hunt is minuscule to the number of people who play online video
Very true.
games.
Yes.
So talking about, if actually hunting a deer or whatever, hog that you're doing would contribute. Like, I remember in my high school, I'm old enough that I was in high school when Columbine happened. But before Columbine happened, which I think that's kind of like the tipping point for all sort of like school shootings.
Right.
I didn't really hear about it a lot until that point in time. I lived out in Carthage, Texas, East Texas, and people still had guns in their gun racks in the back of their trucks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a thing.
No.
Like no one thought about it. No one went, oh man, I go out there and grab a gun and come in. Like just everyone knew everyone had like gun safety and
Right.
It wasn't a big deal to see a gun because your dad had one and you grew up around them. And so, yeah, those are things that happen. And then as soon as Columbine happened, there's an immediate switch. I think the bigger issue, and the conversation that I'm having with some of my friends, is the bigger issue isn't video games. It's not movies. It's not access to guns. Those are all contributing factors for sure.
Sure.
But I think the bigger issue at hand is that we're not doing the hard work. And we're not stepping up, and we're not having conversations with kids who are. And I'm going to get this wrong, but the kid who was in one of the states, he had reported being bullied 70 times, 70 plus some odd times.
Yeah.
And no one did anything.
Yeah.
They had a conversation, said stop. Like that to me is a much bigger thing than it's easy to say no video games with guns.
Right.
It's easy to say films shouldn't be allowed to be seen if it has gun violence in it. Those are all easy conversations to have.
Yeah.
What's hard to say is I need to actually be involved in kids day in, day out, have my finger on the pulse where I know, hey, this could be an issue. Even the kid in Florida, there was several cries for help before the actual unfortunate incident took place.
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation that I wish we were having more of. Is like, hey, how do we do the hard work of making sure? Yeah, obviously, there's common sense rules about semi-automatics and should kids have them, but outside of that. When you have a kid who's having some severe issues, how do we deal with that? How do we get him in a place where he can get help? How do we stop the people who berate kids in school day in, day out? How do we do those hard tasks?
I think blaming video games offloads responsibility in a way that is probably ultimately detrimental to society, right? We say, were it not for this one thing, all of our problems would be fixed. If it were not for violent video games, none of this would be happening, which I think ignores the fact that it happened prior to games and it's going to continue to happen, for other reasons, and the fact that other countries have violent video games and maybe not have as big of a problem as we do with some of this stuff. So I think it's, I look. You mentioned Columbine, and I remember a big thing that came out about Columbine was like these kids were obsessed with computer games. They were obsessed with Doom. and I was obsessed with Doom.
It was a
I
cool
played
game,
I played
yeah.
a ton of it when I was a kid, and I don't feel the worse off for it. Again, it's one of those things where if you're into that kind of stuff, then you're probably going to be into movies. You're probably going to be into games that present that kind of behavior. And maybe you're a little bit more into it than other people, but it's not. I don't think it's the cause. It's the symptom. It's not the cause.
Right. I want to step back and address my earlier point because I realize it sounds foolish in retrospect. But yeah, we need to be addressing the disease and not the symptom. What I meant earlier, not that there's no value to hunting. I actually enjoy it, but I can't play a video game and know how to load a rifle. No idea how. I don't even know what kind of ammunition guns take. I don't learn that from a video game. I can't. They don't provide that information. So as far as like a practicality point goes, and where it's encouraging violent behavior, like maybe, but it's not really teaching it, is it? Like I'm not really learning anything practical from it. It's simply an exercise in simulation.
I will
don't
say
know.
this
Yeah.
is as I've gotten older, I can definitely see where the older people in Congress or the Senate or who's ever having these conversations, I can get where they're coming from, because it is disconcerting. And now I'm 35, and I've heard a 13-year-old go, "Yes, I blew his face off." And it's like,
Sure.
And again, as a 13-year-old, I did the exact same thing. But it is weird as you get older and then you see the current events, and these kids, for the most part, if they're anything like I was when I was 13, they're blissfully unaware of what's kind of happening in a big picture. That they get headlines and they get stuff, but to me, I was blissfully unaware of the real world events.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't see it. I see it being, like I said, I see it being a symptom, but not necessarily the root of the problem.
And I will say in video games' favor, they do I think a much better job than any other medium in communicating what's exactly in the game. They do a pretty good job of self-policing. They put labels on there that tell you exactly what's in there, and if there's any amount of blood, that immediately gets you a higher rating.
Right.
Better than movies, I think.
Yep.
You can go to a PG-13 movie and see things that would be considered an M rating for a video game. So,
Right. I wanted to call out a couple comments on
please.
Facebook real quick. For Andy Draper, he said multiple studies have been done with aggression. Video games have found to have no correlation. Aggressive people tend to play violent games. The games don't make them aggressive. Sarah Mihal said, games to me are like movies. If my kid was young and I wouldn't let them play it if it was super graphic gory, like rated R or rated M for mature in the case of video games. But she grew up playing 007 GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. Who didn't? Nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you don't find yourself the desire to be particularly homicidal.
Yeah.
So, yes, I guess. Yeah. That's,
In closing, I will say this. I was at a GameStop recently buying some games, and there was a kid who was 13, 14, and he wanted to buy one of those first-person shooter games.
Sure.
I think, no, it wasn't that. It was Sex in the City, or one of those where you have like steal cars, whatever it is. Not Sex
Grand
in the
Theft
City.
Auto. Grand Theft Auto.
That's the one. Sorry.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar Games.
That's the one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, not my personal DVD collection. But Grand Theft Auto, and the guy behind the counter in front of his dad, because his dad was there to buy it for him, goes, "Hey, there's violence. There's shooting, there's stabbing, there's bleeding, there's robbing, there's stealing, there's nudity, and there's sex. Are you okay with this?" And the dad was like, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
At least he said.
I thought that's really cool of GameStop, and I don't know
Yeah.
if that was just that one guy, or if that's like an overwhelming thing that they have to do when parents come in. Like, you describe what's in the game exactly, not just go, "Hey, do you see the rating?" Making sure you're cool with it. Like he says, "There's this, there's this."
Right.
So
that is a GameStop. I'm pretty sure official policy.
so.
They have to do that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Coming up next, we have a special guest coming in, Sally Fryer-Dietz, going to be talking about concussions and those kind of things, and how to deal with your kids. I know spring sports are coming up. Things that you can think about. Coming up next with Sally Fryer-Dietz on RNCN, the Lunch Break Show. And we are back on Real News Talk. I am Josh here with Matt Stoker and Zach Lewis. We're in studio right now with special guest Sally Fryer-Dietz. How's it going?
Great. Oh, hold on.
Get that microphone pulled up.
I apologize for that. I should have been on top of it. There we go.
I want to see. There's a video that was trending on Facebook, as most kids parenting videos do, where they're like feeding their kid a lemon or a lime or those kind of things. I have tons of mine with my kid eating like blueberries for the first time. There's one that kind of stuck out to me that made me a little uncomfortable, and it was the kid received some wasabi. I have the audio of the kid eating wasabi. I hit the wrong button. Here it is.
Want to try wasabi?
No.
Do you want to try it?
The girl's probably 2 years old.
Wasabi.
Do you want to try it? Smell it.
And this is when
Smell
she
it first.
puts the wasabi on the top of her lip.
Help.
And the kid, its eyes get big. Obviously, its mouth on fire, and she says, "Help!"
Good
and,
grief.
Yeah, and you hear the mom laughing about it. And again, just to be fair, the video, it was a very small amount of wasabi. It wasn't a large glob, but still, I think you're still the parent, and these kind of videos bother me.
Yeah. So this was posted on Facebook, I assume.
I'm sure it's one of those you go, my kid, LOL, with wasabi for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she got tons of backlash because moms love and dads love to mom shame.
Right.
So
if there's one
sure,
thing that parents love to do.
Yeah. So I'm sure that happened. But those things bother me. And when I was thinking about that, I thought, just because the kid said she wants to try it, she's 2, tops 2, maybe 3. She's the kid. You're the adult, you're the parent. You have to know that's not a good decision. To give my kid wasabi. If the kid's 13, 14, and knows it's hot and still wants to try it, that's a different conversation. But the kid has no idea what the consequences are of trying this. They're putting their 100% trust in you. And that's why I want to talk to Sally Fryer-Dietz, because she specializes in concussions, correct?
Yes.
And so spring sports are coming up. Those kind of activities are happening. And I know for me, I couldn't wait until here in Plano, 7th grade, I could play football. And it was put the helmet on and go out there and run around and tackle and hit and those kind of things. Are you finding parents are having a harder time saying no because they're worried about, or saying yes because they're worried about concussions?
We're on a really rapid learning curve as far as concussions go. And it wasn't that long ago that people really didn't even recognize how serious concussions could be. And today we know that not only are concussions serious, but even subconcussive hits that are repetitive can be equally as damaging.
So you say subconcussive hits. Are those hits that don't actually make you go fully concussed?
That's right. Yep, absolutely. So
just getting your bell rung or something like that people might call it.
Yeah, or even just putting little kids, 1st graders, 2nd graders, 3rd graders, into tackle football or into ice hockey or something like that where they're at a high risk for having repetitive hits, and you've got a very immature skeleton, so those hits are registered in a greater magnitude on the central nervous system. But so today we know all that stuff, whereas even 5-10 years ago people were unaware of it. So you could put your kids into sports and you could worry about it but not really worry about it.
I remember talking to you a while back, and when I was a kid I played soccer. I loved playing soccer, and I played it for quite a while, and but I was never a really elite athlete, obviously. But I still loved it. I still loved playing it. And I remember you were telling me the story about that you see a lot of kids who play soccer, and one in particular that had a number of concussions before they were 20. Right. And that was a sport that, football is obvious. Certain ice hockey, like you say, ice hockey, I would get a concussion just by stepping on the ice. I would fall and I'd be immediately concussed. But soccer, I never thought about. But if you play in some of these elite levels, when you go up for a header and the ball is going 70 miles an hour or more, that's a serious impact, or if you just run into people.
Right, and changes are coming in soccer. They're going to have to, because kids who are doing a lot of headers, especially girls, even in adolescence, are at risk for these, again, subconcussive injuries that, when they compile together, can cause long-term deficits. And nobody wants that for their kids, but we have to kind of be honest with ourselves that it is a whole new ball game now, because we have all this research, we have all this knowledge. It's a little similar to, back in the old days when nobody wanted to acknowledge that smoking was bad for you. Well, it took a long time, for that research to catch up, where people finally figured out, it really is not good for your body to smoke, and we put rules in place. But, with kids and concussions in sports, we're in that process right now.
So what do you do if you're a parent and your kid wants to play sport? I don't even want to say the parent wants the kid to play sports, but if the kid is interested in playing sports, in playing football,
right?
What do you do?
Well, we want to set our kids up for success, which is great. We want them to play sports. Sports are really great for your character development, your physical development, everything else. So, sports are good in themselves, but we want to set them up for success, and that means having rules that protect them. Number one, there is no room for dirty play. There's still a lot of dirty play that goes on. We probably have 3 kids in our practice right now who were the result of dirty play, where somebody just took them out when they weren't even playing the game. There needs to be a no-tolerance policy on that. The other thing is identifying risk factors before you put them on the field. So the importance of a really good baseline test, you can get so much information from that, and if you see that there are weaknesses, those are things that we can actually address. Say your child doesn't have a really good peripheral vision. They've been spending too much time on their iPhone or their iPad, and they're not seeing a certain quadrant of their visual field. Well, we can take that child and we can work with them. We have different tools and techniques to really increase that peripheral vision and awareness, so that when they get out on the field, they're less likely to be blindsided. But you don't know what you don't know. So unless you look at the big picture ahead of time, you don't know what the risk factors are. But we have those tools to be able to do that now, and that's what people really need to hear is, getting a good baseline test that doesn't just look at your neurocognitive status, well, that's also important, but looking at their balance, looking at their vision, looking at how, their response speed, how quickly do they catch a ball or hit a ball. And those are all things that are also going to help, make them better athletes.
Yeah.
By really looking at those weak places and then shoring them up.
So in closing, because I know this is kind of something that my wife, I have a 10-month-old son, and I grew up playing football, baseball, all those different kind of things. Is there a sport out there that would be considered like as safe as you can get?
Well, life isn't safe.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there are, stay away from the ballistic sports. I mean, those are the obvious ones, things that involve crashing into another person or another object. But, there are a lot of good sports. I mean, there's track and field, there's tennis, there's swimming, but you can run into a wall swimming.
Sure.
You can trip on a field. You can do all kinds of things. So, we can't wrap our kids in bubble wrap. We want them to be physical and engaged, but again, just, being safe, making sure they're on teams that have conscientious adults that are looking and watching. If your child does have a concussion, you need to take it seriously. They should not return to play within 3 to 4 weeks after that concussion. It takes that long for their brain to heal. What's at risk is you put them back in the field too soon, they get a second concussion. That actually, in some cases, can lead to death. So it is something that needs to be taken very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And people just have to, own it and know it.
So if parents have questions, how do they get a hold of you? How do they contact you?
So we have a clinic in Dallas on Hillcrest and LBJ. Our website is concussion-therapy.com. And we've got a great website, has lots of information on baseline testing, what that should look like, how to, different techniques that we use to relieve symptoms, how we approach rehab in the case of a concussion. And we really aim to, set kids up for success, give them the tools they need to, be safe on the field. And then in the event of a concussion, getting them back to 100% recovery before they get back on the field.
And you also, you don't just deal with concussions, you also help children with sensory integration, which I guess maybe to dumb it down for people is someone on the autism spectrum. Is that kind of?
Not necessarily. Actually, we work with kids with mild to moderate learning differences all the way to severe autism.
Okay.
But what's interesting about the concussion and the developmental pediatrics is when you have a concussion, it throws you back into a sensory integration crisis. So there's a lot of overlap in those two fields. Kids who have underlying learning differences are at a higher risk. That's actually a red flag for having concussions or being more set up for concussions. So working again on the body as early as you can to set it up for success, and being strong and integrated and doing things as easily as possible is going to help them in the long run.
Well,
Great.
I thank you for coming in, and thank you for sharing the information. You can find that info. It'll be later on Facebook. We'll put a link in the comments on Facebook and on YouTube here in the next 15 minutes or so. I appreciate you taking the time, Sally. It was phenomenal hearing you talk and sharing the info that you have. Please, if you have any questions with Spring Sports, reach out, contact her facility, and get your kids set up for success. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are back on RNCN. Hello, I am Josh in studio with Matt Stoker and Zach Lewis. We are reaching out right now to talk to Bobby Albert because his new book came out on Tuesday called The Principles of, The Principled Prophets. And so hopefully we get him on the phone. We're trying that right now.
We're having to do a little live production here.
Yeah.
We don't have the ability to call someone off the air right now. So.
Well, we do, but it's hard with a live show to
Right.
get the feedback
Yeah.
in here. So there's some issues we're trying to figure out.
We will have that sorted.
In the meantime, I want to give you guys a little fun update on President Obama. You guys have been missing him lately in his
Yeah,
interactions.
I've been wondering what he's been up to.
Nope.
Hold on.
Wait.
Oh, maybe kill that music.
There we go. Now
There we go.
he's joined Netflix.
There we go.
See this again.
Worth it.
This is
worth it for the bet.
This is the stuff that you see, and you know that we are trained professionals. So yes, he is producing right now with Netflix to get a show together where he will be basically moderating different interactions, conversations with people, all the stuff that he was really passionate about during his presidential campaign and term. He'll be using that platform globally of Netflix to have a show where he's talking and keeping those conversations alive on Netflix.
Yeah, it's interesting in that President Obama was a very forward-thinking president when it come to his campaign and how he used the internet and all throughout his presidency, Twitter and all of that stuff. So it makes sense that post-presidency he would be delving into even more ways to reach the public. And Netflix seems like I'm curious to see what he does.
Well, and plus a lot of people right now, I think, are really missing his presidency. I mean, again, some people love Trump, love what he's doing, and I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong. But I think there's a large swatch of America who just miss kind of because for me, I thought he was a very active, like a social media active.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost too much.
Yeah.
Almost too engaged. And then now to see the difference between what President Obama I thought was too much, talking about like current events, like as far as the NBA or those kind of kind of things, to seeing where we are now is, you know what,
Yeah.
he was actually fine. It was pulled back way enough.
All right, so it looks like we're ready to get Bobby on the line. Nope.
There I am. Speaking of live production, ready to call him. Yeah.
Okay, well.
So everybody ready to tune in and see if we
Here
can
we
get
go.
him?
Here we
Yeah.
go. This is so exciting. Our first live call
Let's
on the
see
air.
what happens. Yeah. see
Will
if we
he
can-
answer? Will Bobby Albert answer?
I'll be honest, I am nervous. I feel like
I'm ready.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get him on here.
I'm reminded of my days producing a show, just hoping that somebody was going to answer the phone when I needed them to.
Oh, come on now, Bobby.
Bobby Albert.
Bobby Albert, how's it going? This is the Lunch Break Show on RNC, and how are you doing, sir?
All right, doing great.
We're joined in studio by Matt Stoker and Zach Lewis, and I am Josh Hart. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you got some stuff going on today, but for talking about your new book.
Yeah, thank you.
It came out on Tuesday. You can pick it up on Amazon, I am sure.
Congratulations on the book launch.
Well, good. Thank you very much. It was a long process.
Yeah, I mean, that's always kind of been one of my lifelong goals is to like write a book. How long did that take you?
Well,
Because
it took a long time, but part of it was the original publishing date was May of 2015 that it was going to be released, and I had some challenges with that publisher, and I had to change publishers midstream and then get into a new sales cycle. So besides the challenge, the difficulty of getting a book out to begin with, and then having to make that change was a challenge. But we're here.
Well, Bobby, I know you the thing that you're passionate about is company culture and those kind of things. What can you do when you see a toxic attitude spreading among your employees, but you can't let anyone go?
Well, that's a very interesting topic because if there's a toxic environment, if I could just suggest this, and there's a quote by John Maxwell, a best-selling author on leadership, and he this is what he says: everything rises and falls on leadership. And when you have a toxic environment in a workplace, it's very likely it's part of the culture, and the leader is the one that drives that culture.
One thing I've heard people mention when it comes to leadership is a big key of if you have values, then the key thing is to communicate those values and to be open with your employees on what you expect of them and how you expect them to act. And so I've heard it said that whenever there are instances of a lot of gossip going around the office or a toxic attitude that's starting to spread, part of the problem is that the communication from the top is not effectively spreading down. So you're not, if you may be the best boss in the world, but if people don't know it, then it doesn't really do a whole lot. Would you agree with that? Do you think when it comes to leadership, being open and just letting people know, here's how I feel, here's how I think things should run, that's one of the most important parts?
Well, yes, it is. However, just communicating is only one small piece of leadership. What I've learned is that culture is the fruit and not the goal. And what I'm talking about here is to develop if you take a fruit tree, for example, what does a farmer do? They spend a great amount of time preparing the soil of this fruit tree they're about ready to plant. Now, one thing to keep in mind, it takes anywhere, this is amazing, 2 to 5 years for that fruit tree to produce this beautiful fruit. But the thing that I have learned is that the root, what a farmer does, through the 2 to 5 years, they spend time watering the tree, they cultivate the tree, they prune the tree so that it eventually produces this beautiful fruit. But what I've learned, if you can think of a fruit tree, it is like the roots are like the core values, the purpose, the vision of the organization. The trunk of the tree is like the leadership style, which I have learned to be a participative type of leadership style. And when you got the collection of those 4 ingredients, it will produce beautiful fruit. Now, let me just suggest this. Most CEOs or leaders in an organization are driving real hard for results. And if they can learn that if they would just add enhancing relationships with their employees, is that they can have exponential results that they're always looking for. But it's interesting is this huge gap between the CEO or the leader and what the employees want. And Gallup, for example, did this massive research project. They had their survey included over 1 million employees and over 85,000 companies, which is a huge sampling. And what they found is only 33% of the companies are engaging their employees. And so there's employees going to work today that and have already gone to work is what they're asking is, do you care for me? Do I belong in this organization? Can I contribute toward the goals of the organization? What does this company stand for? And do you create a learning environment that I can do the best job I can do? Wow. In other words, there's 67% of the companies out there that have employees going to work every day that are either disengaged. In other words, it's just like, nah. You know, it's just like I'm just clocking in, clocking out, getting my paycheck. Or they're either totally disengaged. In other words, they're walking the hallway speaking bad about the boss and the company.
Yeah. You know what? That is phenomenal. And I can tell that you're just a wealth of info, and that's stuff that you can find in the book. Again, it's called Principled Profits. Outward Success is an Inside Job. You can find it on Amazon, also at your website, which is what again, Bobby?
Well, thank you for asking. It's simply BobbyAlbert.com. And we would love for people to go search us out at our website and go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble to purchase the book called Principled Profits, Outward Success is an Inside Job.
Yep. And I know you guys got somewhere to go, so I don't want to hold you up. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you have a great day. Coming up next, we're not going to have a segment go without some fun and exciting food news. So we have food news when we come back on RNCN, the Lunch Break Show. And we are back on Real News Talk, RNC and the Lunch Break Show. I am Josh. We're in the studio again with Matt Stoker and Zach Lewis. We do this show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube all simultaneously.
Isn't that special?
The power of technology. We're wrapping up the show. We only have a few minutes left, and we try, if we get around to it. We had 2 games, and one was a bagpipe game, and one was a food game. I'm going to go with the food.
Fair enough.
I'm going to go with the food. I think food will be better.
He was just doing all that talk about fruit trees, and I'm hungry now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's lunchtime.
So some fun food news, and there's a list of the healthy foods that you think you're eating to be healthy, but in fact actually are fattening for you. So I know for me, I'm always trying to like think of the thing that makes you lose weight, and it was don't eat oatmeal, do eat eggs.
Okay.
Or oatmeal, but you have to add nuts and seeds to it.
That's fine. I don't like oatmeal anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm fine without that.
It says don't eat lean meat, which I eat all the time. It says do eat beef, but you can get it says go organic or grass fed instead of the higher quality or the lower quality grade lean beef.
Oh, that's interesting.
It
So
is.
as long as it's organic or grass fed, it's better for you than even a lean non-grass fed beef.
And then here's one of the more surprising ones, and that I'll leave you with. It says don't eat white fish, eat dark fish. I didn't know that mattered at all, and it does.
What is a dark fish? Is
Yeah,
that
I didn't know there was dark fish.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It says a mackerel
Okay.
is a healthier option. It has more omega fats in it. It's a little fun fact.
What is salmon? Salmon's red. Is that dark?
I don't know. I don't know.
When was the
Is
last
that a
time either
medium
of you
fish?
had mackerel?
Mackerel?
Never.
Never.
Literally never.
I'm
Have
sure
I
I've
had a
Never once
mackerel.
in my life have I had a mackerel before.
I'm sure I've had it somewhere. And then in Japan, for some reason, again, Coca-Cola is getting into the alcohol industry. So they're now pairing up drinks with alcohol in them, which makes sense. Jack and Coke, rum and Coke, all these make sense.
Oh, so they're like packaging it all in one.
all
Like
in
you're-
one. So Coke and your...
It's not a bad idea.
It's genius to me.
Yeah.
Why they don't haven't done it beforehand is beyond me.
Yeah.
But they're
Why sell the mixer? What are you going to sell it all
Well,
together?
they're not doing it here because the rates of alcoholism would skyrocket in this country if you could get Coca-Cola readily accessible with your drink of choice.
And to top it off, they're not only are they having it drinkable, they're having it in a pops too. So they're having Alka Pops.
Even better.
Yeah.
Alka Pops.
Alka Pops. ALCOPOPS. Alka Pops. You can have alcoholic popsicles. Again, can't make the stuff up. Exciting, fun things. If you find fun and or exciting food news, please email them to podcast@realnewspr.com.
We want your food news.
We want your food news, and we will even give you credit if you send us something that's cool and engaging here on the show.
Didn't we have upstairs the other day when there alcoholic ice cream?
There
Yes,
was
that a thing?
Yeah,
But that was a surprise. Apparently, some guy came up and brought alcoholic ice cream,
Yeah.
gave it to everyone. No one knew it had alcohol in it.
Right.
And they were having like their third bowl.
By the way.
And it was 17% alcohol.
That's pretty serious
That's
for
stiff.
a treat. Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
so
pretty stout.
I
Dude,
heard it was good.
So none of us got any.
no,
No.
of course
Right.
not.
Why would the guys on the lunch break be able to try the
No.
cool alcoholic
Look,
ice cream?
it's called the lunch break, but we don't get to eat.
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
This is our lunch break.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the whole thing. Yeah.
So-
Feel sorry for us.
Either way, please feel free to write us, email us. We love your comments, love your feedback. If you like the show, share, like us, tell your friends. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right here on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We're Real News RNCN with Matt Stoker in the hood, of
Going
course,
back in the hood.
and in the box with Zach Lewis. So hope
man
you
in the
guys,
box.
see you guys soon. Have a great day, and I will talk to you on Monday.